In this week's episode of Studio Inter, we'll be reviewing the matches against Real Madrid and Sassuolo. We'll be previewing the upcoming games against Mönchengladbach and Bologna, this week's Moratti, Moggi and Frog, and much, much more. Everything here on Studio Inter, only on SempreInter.com. Benvenuti, bentornati to another edition of Studio Inter. I'm your host, Nerazzurri, wishing you back from what has been a, as always, intensive and exhausting week in the world of Inter and football generally. But before we get to all of that, let me introduce my panelists, starting with Mr. Positivity himself, who was not positive about Sassuolo, but was positive about Real Madrid, as we all were. But given that Inter are as crazy as they are, it was completely upside down world. So how are you feeling, Mr. Mr. Mo Nassar?
Unsurprisingly, I have a way to spin it positively. And
I'm sure
I'm feeling great. It's honestly, it's difficult to feel upset. I said earlier today, you wake up to an Inter win and Juve dropping points, second in the table. Why not? It's great. I'm all in.
Sounds great. We're also joined by our good friend from London, Mr. William Beckman.
Hello. I'd just like to remind everyone that at the end of last week's show, I did ask for 3 points and not 6, because obviously 6 was completely unrealistic given that we were playing Sassuolo. But we did get 3 points anyway. So
we can blame Will.
That as a... No, I wasn't going to accept any responsibility for anything. I was just going to claim a sort of moral prediction win, seeing as actual prediction wins I don't get very often.
Well, we all got that one wrong because Inter are crazy, because the game I expected against Real Madrid came against Sassuolo and vice versa.
we reversed psychologied the hell out of that Sassuolo match last week, and it worked.
It sure did. We are also joined for the first time by the SempreInter.com, a weekly feature writer. He writes what we learned from Inter this week, making his Studio Inter debut. Welcome, Mr. Jake Smalley.
Wait, thanks very much for having me.
It's good to have you. Yeah, it's good to have you. We've been talking about this for quite some time. It's good to finally have you on. And I thought I'd let you introduce yourself to our listeners. How did you become an Inter fan? And tell us a little bit about your previous work, because you've worked for Man United as well. So go ahead.
Yeah, well, to be honest, it's a bit of a strange one. I've always grown up watching a bit of Italian football. And I got a chance to go over there for my 21st birthday to watch Inter against Napoli. It was a 1-0 win that night for Napoli. But sitting in the curve, something sparked an interest. And I've been over for the derby since, and I've just got an affiliation with the club now. I mean, I don't know why. It's really stressful. I mean, I'm a Preston North End fan, and it's weird because there's so many parallels between both, despite the fact that, the different levels. But in some ways, it's the exact same, and that's heartbreaking enough. But yeah, that's simple as that, really. I went over and just straight away and just got a feel for the place, and I just love it. I'm obsessed with it, really. And as far as journalism work goes, I'm an English teacher now, but I still do a little bit on the side, for yourself. And my previous work, I've done bits for 442, and I've worked at Man United for a year, just covering some of the match day stuff. So yeah, I'm just really happy that you've got me on. I'm delighted to choose some fat, but also I'm a bit disappointed. I can't have a really good moan either, more than anything else. I'm just disappointed because I love having a little platform to moan, but I can't complain. There's been a positive end to this week, so let's.
Have we got ourselves a Mr. Negativity to go with our...
Yes, we have. Yeah. We have Mo, but the negative version.
I was going to say, Jay, I think I remember that the match you met. Was that the one where Nagatomo did an air kick in the box?
Yes.
You see
yes, that was right in front of me. Yeah, Callahan. I was like, the first time I've come in, I mean, Napoli were on top of the game, big ball on the top. I thought, Nagatomo's nowhere near that. Slices the air, and Callahan just smashes it in and celebrates in front of the curver. So
that was right at the end
Nagatomo up close.
That was right at the end of the purely meltdown when we were lost about 7 games in a row or something. That was
Oh,
That
memories.
was quite something.
Beautiful memories. Right, let's let's start with it, because if you want to have a good old moan, I'm going to let you do that now, because the game against Real Madrid, I would say moaning is would be the least of what I felt like doing. I was furious because I was so annoyed, because I was kind of hopeful, and I was positive, if you want to say. I was hopeful, optimistic going into that game, because I really liked what I saw against Torino. But then Antonio Conte decided that, the first 60 minutes that were abhorrent against Torino is how he wanted to play against Real Madrid, and it was Real Madrid's B-C team, if you will, even. Um, the Champions League is essentially over now, isn't it? I mean, there's not much to talk about. But let's talk about the game itself. I want to start with Mr. Positivity. I double dare you, Mo, to find anything positive from that performance.
No, there's absolutely nothing. No, I'm not a silly man,
I know
but
you're not. I'm just winding you up.
but really, there's nothing to be taken away from this game. The quicker we put it behind us, the better off everyone is at Inter. You spoke about Conte turning a corner tactically. It was more the same. The players, I mean, look, we can complain about Conte all we want, but really there was so little desire from anyone but Lukaku on the field. It was really after the weekend's result. I was against Torino. I really don't understand how this panned out midweek against Real Madrid at home in what ostensibly seemed like a must-win game. So no comment really.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It was a stinker. It was horrible. It was painful to watch. Jake, you want to have a moan about it? Then I figure you've got a list of things you want to moan about this game. So go right ahead. Give me your list of grievances from Inter during this game.
Well, what time do you want to go to bed tonight? I mean, that's that's how long we've got. I mean, the thing that really upsets you more than anything else is just the lack of organisation, the lack of desire. Teams are going to lose games, but it's how you go down. And I was really, really hopeful. I thought, surely, I thought we were a little bit hard done to over in Madrid. So I thought, surely they'll be fired up. It's must win. And second half, he changed the system, and it made no impact. All the players are so drilled into this 3-5-2 formation that they've forgotten how to play football any other way other than press, run around. Like there's just no lack of, a complete lack of sort of any attacking influences. Pass it around the back, boot it up, looking for Lukaku, and like Mo just said, Lukaku looks like the only player who's interested a lot of the time. And I was just so disappointed, because what's the point in keep qualifying for the Champions League every year, putting everything in, spending all this money, and not get any further each time? You wait to get back in the Champions League for so long, and you can't even make it past 6 games. So
yeah,
just
for
really
sure,
dispiriting.
For sure. But I mean, one thing we have to talk about. I think, Will, you summed it up brilliantly. You tweeted out, "Ha, full stop, ha, 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 full stop," when Arturo Vidal lost his bloody mind and did what he did. This is a guy who was brought in together with Kolarov because, and I quote, "they bring experience." Experience of what? Being in not having any discipline and being useless and costing your teams the game? That experience? Because we already, then we might as well bring Guarin and Nagatomo and Kuzmanovic back, because we already had that. What is he doing? I don't understand how anyone can attack the referee in any way. Let's remember that Anthony Taylor, prior to this game, Inter had never lost a game that he officiated. So he's not anti-Inter, anti-Italian anything. He's anti-idiot, and Arturo Vidal happens to be an idiot. That's what happened there. What do you think? I mean, what's your take on this? What he did?
Well, it was not entirely surprising, because we've seen what Arturo Vidal sometimes does in big matches. He gets himself too fired up, and his biggest strength, which is supposedly his grinta and his desire and determination, which we said was lacking from everyone else, that can become a weakness because he doesn't always know how to channel it. they were talking on British TV after the highlight show about whether Conte had maybe fired his players up too much for this match. But then they quickly realised after suggesting that actually the other 10 players clearly weren't in that briefing when he was firing the players up. It was just Vidal who was fired up for this match, if that was the case. So I don't think it's something you can blame Conte for sort of specifically in that sense. But look, it's impossible to separate Vidal, this sending off, and Conte himself, because this is the man that Conte wanted for the last sort of year or so. It's all we've been hearing in the media about how he wanted to sign Vidal because he was the missing piece in the midfield puzzle. And so when just as he did with Lukaku, he took responsibility for Lukaku. He was very clear about wanting him, and if Lukaku had been a terrible failure, the responsibility would have been at his door, and he would have sunk with that ship. As it is, Lukaku has been a fantastic signing, but that hasn't been the case, sadly, with Vidal. I think he's made 2 or 3 match-costing mistakes in this Champions League campaign alone. He obviously gave away the penalty in the first match against Borussia Monchengladbach in a way that was slightly needless. He was partially to blame for the winning goal in Madrid when he didn't track Rodrigo sufficiently at the end of the match. Although I suppose in that one you could blame Conte more for that, because I think by that point it was clear that he'd run out of legs. But this one was obviously the worst of the lot, and it completely ended the match. There was absolutely no way back into that match after the 33rd minute, and you can't afford to put yourself in that position in a must-win match. So, Conte said that after you have someone sent off that early on, what can you do? But it's not an excuse. It's because it was such a stupid red card. It's not like a get out of jail card for the rest of the team. It's an indictment on his requests in the transfer market, the way that he's tried to take the direction he's tried to take the team in, sort of prioritizing strength and stamina, etc., over quality. And it's a real indictment of Vidal himself. So it was a complete catastrophe, and it just sort of the laughing was like, it was just the fact that we knew that this game was so important, and within half an hour we've given away a silly penalty and we've shot ourselves in the foot. It was just the most Inter-esque way of losing the match, and I couldn't believe that this had happened in a match that we all knew was a point of no return. This was I think the reason we were all angry about this match. One was because, as you said, a lot of us were quite hopeful going into this game, and so when you get your hopes up, it hurts even more when people disappoint you. And secondly, because really, for all the bad performances that we've had this season, this was the first real kind of do or die moment of the season. The first match that you couldn't remedy later down the line if you got it wrong. And so to be that meek for 90 minutes, when you know that your entire Champions League campaign is on the line, when you know that you've been making bad approaches to matches in previous weeks, it's completely inexplicable. And the thing that really stuck in the throat towards the end of the match was when I realised that was the 4th time in 5 games that we'd gone 2-0 down in a match. So that just tells you all you need to know about the lack of intensity with this team. And it's inexplicable that comes from a Conte side, because it's not what we're used to. Last season, the whole story was about scoring goals early and sending the matches in the direction we wanted. And we've seen none of that up until Saturday, of course.
The thing that annoyed me the most about that, and I completely agree with everything, every word and syllable you've said. The thing that annoyed me the most with that is that it was so incredibly unnecessary. Because if you looked at, now we have VAR. Give the referee a chance. There is always going to be a silent check when you have these situations. And the video showed that Varane, it wasn't a penalty. Varane was first on the ball. Tough, but those are the rules. So there was no need for him to go into the referee's face like that and get 2 yellow cards in the space of 30 seconds, or 10 seconds even. I think he broke Muntari's record from the treble season with what he did. So it's so incredibly stupid. And again, this is the man that was brought in, exactly like you said, to bring experience and help Inter win. Win what exactly? The Idiot of the Year award?
Well,
I mean,
he's helped Conte win the Tapiro d'Oro this week. So he has helped him to win some. That's the award that's given to people who've made fools of themselves. But like basically Italy's version of the Frog of the Week.
Yeah,
Conte got that this week.
Exactly, by the country of Italy. I think is it Mediaset or is it Rai? I can't remember. I think it's Mediaset.
Yeah, I think it's one of their shows.
Yeah. Yeah, they give it the golden Tapiro d'Oro.
They doorstep people in their cars or on streets. And
my favorite part was
really
when he
weird interview.
My favorite when they asked him if the players still listen to him, and he got angry and said, "What a stupid question that is." It's funny, but it's funny if you're neutral, I guess, and it's kind of comical, tragic comical. When all things considered, when Inter release the day after, 3 days after they released the past year's fiscal year, and they report in the red for 102 million euros, and then they release how much money they spent on the transfer market, and then you see the results, like you said, again in the Champions League, when it's supposed to show, not that Inter are supposed to win the Champions League, but get through the group for sure, and they're awful. They're absolutely awful.
So let's assume that, obviously, as you said, there's still a tiny mathematical chance that we go through, but let's assume that we don't. The thing that's so galling is that if you take these 3 Champions League campaigns, I'd say each one has been worse than the one before. Because
I couldn't agree with you more.
The closest we've got was the one when we had the weakest team with Spalletti. We were twice 10 minutes away from going through. We've not got anywhere near that in the 2 years since.
Agreed.
There's no. So Conte talks about this percorso, this journey that the team is supposed to be going on, but
he's starting to
rubbish.
He's starting to piss off a lot of journalists with this percorso stuff. A lot of commentators in Italy with this journey stuff, and they're like, "What journey? You're here to bring titles and win titles. Stop! Yeah. You've been in for almost 2 years now."
If I'd been in the studio, I would have said, Antonio, Atalanta have literally won at Anfield tonight. Do they need to do a percorso? They've been in like less time than you. Does that mean that, what are you talking about? You're the anti-percorso. You're supposed to be the shortcut to titles. Don't give us all this,
But he's had. I mean, this season, it's like we've spoken on this show before, that he's had some sort of identity crisis. He's gone from he's imitated Zdenek Zeman to imitated Gasperini to now he thinks he's talking about Klopp and doing a journey, and Klopp was at Liverpool for 4 or 5 years before they won something, and it's like, who are you? And when he started, he said it's a 3-year project to win within 3 years, and now it's a journey, and the man's not coherent in what he says, and it's classic Conte, nothing new under the sun. But I mean, having said,
ragazzi,
no. Okay, fidate. No, we see this. I don't believe in what. I mean, I'm looking. It's not. It's not looking good.
No, I have to say that there was. Wednesday night was the night that I lost faith in the Conte project. Obviously, Saturday's match against Sassuolo, it's kind of confused things. But generally speaking, I'm kind of not still a million miles away from where I felt on Thursday. That felt like a kind of end of the line type match. That was definitely how it felt at the time. And I even said it on Twitter. I don't normally go this strong with my opinions on Twitter because people get angry when you give your opinion. But I did say that Conte's tenure ended tonight, regardless of whether he's actually sacked. I felt like that was a point of no return for this project. Now, obviously, we'll have to see if there's.
We'll get to that, but before we get to that, really I agree with you. You see, I couldn't agree with you more. I think I think it's kind of, for me, this whole thing was sealed in the summer with that idiotic brain dead mercato and bringing these players that did not enhance the team in any shape, size, or form. At best, was a step sideways when you're supposed to take a step forward. But so for me, this has basically been like playing out. The hands have been dealt. This is just playing it out now. We're circling the drain with him, so I'm not too upset. But I can imagine if you actually had hope in this project going into the season, you must be furious. But let's talk about the Champions League in and of itself, because I want to ask you, Mo, and I want to ask you, Jake, and then you will. I'm just going to go first. We're out of the Champions League. I don't even if we win against Borussia Monchengladbach and Shakhtar, it's over. I don't see Inter qualifying from this group. What I hope and what I pray is that Inter do not finish third and do not go into the Europa League again and play these, play Ludogorets every year, as apparently is the tradition these years. When it's February, March, we play Ludogorets. I don't want to play Ludogorets in February, March. So I'm going to ask you, Mo. Do you think we'll go through for the Champions League? And do you prefer? What do you prefer, Europa League or no Europa League?
I'll tell you what. I think squeaking past out of the group for me is a good omen in general. I like that. Atalanta reversed worse odds, I think, or worse the first 4 games, or maybe worse 3 games. But Atalanta were able to do it. There's no denying. Like I'm not deaf to what you guys are saying. I totally understand, and I felt exactly the same way on the Wednesday night. But then, we're not Thursday today. We're Sunday, and we've seen what the team can do, what Conte can do. So I think 6 points, the correct 6 points, and of course, the results, the Real Madrid's results need to swing in our favor as well. But for the first time in a long time, we're dependent on other teams' results that are sensible for the other teams as well. It's worked out in our favor. Real Madrid need to get 3 points against Shakhtar. We beat Gladbach. We narrow the goal difference. The goal difference, and then it's us and Shakhtar and Real Madrid and Mönchengladbach. Real Madrid still need to beat Gladbach in the last game, so it's not a done deal. So I'm not.
Give me a prediction. Do you think we'll go through? Do you think Inter will go through from the Champions League group?
I think we've got a healthy 30% chance of making it through, 25% chance of making it through.
Okay, but what's your prediction?
We'll make it through.
Okay. If we don't make it through, do you prefer Europa League or no Europa League?
No. I think we should try and avoid it like, I don't know.
Like the plague.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I don't want to play Ludogorets in February ever again.
I don't think we're gonna win it this year. We've done our time there, and I don't think so. But yeah,
cool. Jake, what about you? Same question.
That was really funny, actually, when you were talking at the start, just that first bit. Then I literally said Ludogorets in my mouth. Draw teams like Ludogorets, yeah, disgusting. No, I don't see the point. I don't see them getting through. I don't see them beating Mönchengladbach, to be honest with you. They seem on another level this year compared to what everybody expected. And I just don't see the point in the Europa League unless, we're going to win it. There's no point. And I really don't see Inter winning it. For me, it's got to be the league that's the priority this season.
Yeah.
And it all depends on the next game, doesn't it? And, with you having to rely on other teams, that makes it difficult as well. But as much as anything, I'm just so disappointed. When the draw came out, I looked in and I thought, do you know what? Surely, us in Madrid, surely. It's the easiest draw we've had out of the 3 years. But, even that first result was sort of so similar to the Slavia Prague one. You think at home, get 3 points there. And, and going into that Real Madrid doubleheader in the middle of the tournament, the sort of group stage part of the tournament, you want 6 points on the board. And, we just played Shakhtar a few months before and absolutely annihilated them. And then go there and draw 0-0. I'm really unsure. Part of me thinks we'll get 6 points and just miss out. Because it'd just be typical Inter if they did.
And then go in the Europa League.
Yeah, go in the Europa League and then draw Ludogorets. Beat Ludogorets and still draw Ludogorets in the next round.
A round robin with Ludogorets.
Both legs away in Bulgaria.
Ludogorets League.
Yeah. Ludogorets B in the second round, in the quarterfinals.
Just play until the end of time. That's hell. That's the definition of hell.
It just reminds me of that year that Southampton was in the group. And was it Beersheva? It was I mean, what even is that? Is that even a team? And they won as well. So
they came from 2-0 down to win.
It's frightening.
Inter in that Sprite shirt.
Yeah.
Memories, good memories.
That's twice in the first 20 minutes of this podcast we've harked back to the 2016-17 season. A season I thought I would never have to talk about again.
Sorry, it's me. It's me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Jake. Okay, and I'll go continue. So you think you don't think it'll go through, but but you don't want to go to the Europa League either, if I understood you correctly.
No, not at all. I just don't see the point. I think, unless you win the Europa League, and it's all these added games. At the minute, you can tell the team are pretty tired with the amount of games they've got to play. And, all jokes aside, you don't want to be going to these backwater European teams when you actually have to win it for it to be worthwhile. Because, like you've just mentioned, to expect Inter to win the Champions League is a massive, massive task. But you just want them to get out the group stages.
Yeah.
That's all you're asking for. And I just don't see it. So unless they go through via a miracle, I really don't want Europa League. Not at all.
Put it to you this way. If Inter go through the Champions League via some ridiculous miracle, I honestly think that Inter will make it to the final of the Champions League. That's what I'm saying. If Inter are going to be that lucky, if they're going to be that lucky that they go through from this impossible situation, then they will go to the Champions League final because that's just typical Inter logic, isn't it?
Yeah, you say that, but basically Tottenham pretty much did have the same situation 2 years ago in our group, and they did get to the final after sneaking out of that. They had a point after 3 games, didn't they? So that was
that's true. And there's a lot of parallels between Inter and Tottenham, to be honest, in terms of the kind of us against the world, and if there's bad luck and all that. Anyway, Will, I want to ask you the same question. Do you think Inter will go through? And do you EL yes or no, or Ludogorets yes or no? Are you pro or against Ludogorets?
This podcast has become a referendum on Ludogorets and Bulgaria as a whole. No,
Ludexit, if you will. Ludexit.
I don't think we'll go through. I'll give you a specific prediction. I think we're finishing third. Maybe because I'm pessimistic, but I don't think we're going. I think we might win one of these last 2 games, and that could be enough. And I would also say, even though I don't want the Europa League, so my answer to the Europa League question is no. Obviously, I agree with you. We got to the final last year. We're not going to get to the final again, especially because last year it was a summer tournament. This year it fits in the middle of what's already a compressed season. So for me, if I'm choosing, it's obviously no. But that doesn't mean I want Inter to throw in the towel, because it looks pretty impossible at the moment. But fundamentally, if Inter and Real Madrid both win their final 2 games, which in a normal world is what would happen, then Inter and Real Madrid go through. So we can't actually sort of rest players or try not to win. I think we have to go for it, because it's not quite impossible enough to justify sort of a handbrake approach. I don't think we're going to do it. I don't think we'll beat Gladbach. I'm not even sure. I'm not sure that Real Madrid would beat Gladbach in the final group game, especially if they didn't need to win at that point. But it's there's a small chance. So I wouldn't be supporting a sort of a white flag scenario. But if I'm choosing,
so let's predict because we play on Tuesday against Gladbach, against Marco Rose or Rose. I just think it's more fun to say Rose than anything else. So I think we're going to draw that game. I think it's going to be 2-2 draw. Just quickly, Mo, predictions, and then Jake, and then Will.
I think it's a 2-0 win. I think we are going to keep another clean sheet. I think something's working, so clean sheet it is, and we'll score. So 2-0.
Jake?
I think a draw against Rosie's boys. I really do. I think they'll be buoyed a little bit from the weekend, but Monchengladbach are just so fired up. They know it's in their hands a little bit as well. I think if it was a San Siro, I'd be a bit more confident, but I'd say 1 each.
Will?
Yeah, this is a different Mönchengladbach side to the one that we played in matchday 1. I think since then they've really grown in confidence, not least because of the results they've got in this group. And I don't see us beating them, unfortunately. I think they've got the kind of game that would cause us problems unless we're at our best. And I think maybe a 2-1 defeat. I definitely don't see a win though. I'm afraid I don't see the glorious. Of course, the most Inter scenario is that we beat Gladbach and then Real Madrid do their bit and we blow it by losing to Shakhtar. That's probably the most Inter scenario. But if I step out of the Inter paradigm and back into sort of logical football paradigm, I don't think we win this game. I think we'll probably just lose.
Agreed. Right. Well, let's talk about the Sassuolo game, because we all went into that. Even we all had decided. I mean, there was zero hope last week going into Sassuolo. And Mo, I think you literally said that there is no effing way we're winning this game. I think that's a direct quote that you said last week. And not only
absolutely.
but seriously, I think that's exactly what you said, and I remember all of us agreeing with you. It's like, there's no way Sassuolo on a Saturday afternoon, like, no.
It was literally last week's Moggi. This match.
Yeah, this game was last week's Moggi. It's true. Mapei away Saturday afternoon was last week's Moggi. But having said that, not only did Inter win, they won comfortably and handily and didn't look to be threatened at all. Now, and a clean sheet with some luck, because Sassuolo have, they did create a game. Only one time did they create a really good chance down the middle when Juricic hit the post, and it's the same thing we've seen all season, or pretty much since Antonio Conte took over. This notion that Inter are so vulnerable down the middle. All chances, and I remember tweeting about it, and I remember you replying to that, and I didn't reply because I wanted to discuss it with you here, because I think this has been an illness that we've seen all the time. Last season, Handanovic looked better than he does now, because now he looks like a zombie. I mean, it's heartbreaking to see, because I am one of those who rated this goalkeeper, and it's pretty depressing to see him now. He looks like The Walking Dead, and it's I don't understand how he shouldn't be a captain. He shouldn't even play, and they have to address this issue next summer, because Handanovic is finished. He looks completely finished, and he looks like a zombie, and it's really, really painful to see, because this is a goalkeeper I've really rated through the years, but this is horrible to see. But Sassuolo, they played. I mean, I was hoping last week that Manuel Locatelli have a great game. He did. He had a wonderful game, and I think he showed that he's good enough at this level. And if we're going to talk about which we're going to talk about as well, who Inter should replace Christian Eriksen with, who Beppe Marotta basically said he's gone before the game, saying that he's not functional to this team, which provokes me, to put it mildly. But we'll discuss that. But let's talk about the game itself. Inter. It was interesting to see how he decided to play a 3-5-2 without any trequartista or anyone being forced to play as a trequartista, playing Gagliardini and Vidal as mezzalas, and Nicolo Barella is almost like a free role, similar to how Mourinho used to use Cambiasso as a reference point for all the others, which is a really daring thing to do, given that Barella's so young, but given that the quality of this guy, he handled that brilliantly. He handled that role brilliantly. He only ever went missing one time, and that's when Juricic hit the post. But other than that, he was faultless. Nothing going into this game. I expected nothing like that. And then they just turned up. But having said that, now it's 2 wins in a row in the Serie A, which is good. But Mo, what do you take away? What's the most positive thing you take away, given that you are Mr. Positivity? I'm going to give you to go full on positive on this one.
Look, it's got to be the defense. I think chance conversion is very important. I think the fact that Gagliardini was presented with one of 60,000 chances that he's been presented over the last couple of seasons, and actually scored a scorcher is one of the reasons why this is the result is what it is. We've taken our chances and scored the goals. Alexis, we've seen so many times Alexis, as in the first goal, be one-on-one with the goalkeeper and just scuffing the shot or hitting the goalie or the goalkeeper pulling out a ridiculous save. We took the chances, but I think the best thing out of this game for me was the backline sat back, we defended deep, and good God, they had an impeccable game. All three of them, all three of them. Bastoni, De Vrij, and Skriniar, and I'll personally talk about Skriniar later. But the three of them were absolutely immense yesterday. There was, like you said, there was just one chance, and it came from a midfield lapse in marking rather than a defensive error. So I think, for me, the best takeaway, and I know we can't play like this against every team, but Conte got it right. The defense, the players got it right, and that's my takeaway from the game.
Jake, there was not much to moan about in this game. So what did you not moan about if you think about the game itself?
I certainly didn't moan about how we started. You look after reaction after what happens in midweek, and they couldn't really start any better. The game plan was executed perfectly. On the counter, there's plenty of space. The only regret is perhaps not scoring another goal in the first half, really. The biggest thing for me is just getting that settled back three, having those three in, the Inter's three best defenders. So keep playing them. There's no coincidence that with them in the team, there's only been one goal conceded, even with a scarecrowing goal. Like you say, at the minute, I'm really sad to see Handanovic declining so badly, but it's true. It's got to be something that's worked on in the summer, definitely. But Barella, without Barella, you can't play that system, and he's absolutely superb. And the encouraging thing is he's only going to get better and better and better as well. So I was really pleased with how he played. To give him such a responsibility and to see him work, tirelessly as he always does, it's in a role that suits him a little bit more. Asking him to be that sort of trequartista figure is not going to work. He's not a goal scoring midfielder. So get him as involved in the game, as you can. Let him break things up. Let him run around. Let him hassle people. Let him harry people. And I feel, he got the most of that. And to keep a clean sheet against Sassuolo is no mean feat.
No
attacking lineup, no Caputo, yeah, but they still were sort of really high tempo, especially second half. They didn't give up either. Even at 3-0 down, they did not give up. So the most pleasing aspect of it is the manner of the victory. I certainly didn't expect that. I had no idea that performance had come out, especially without Lukaku from the start. There's loads of things to be positive about, to be fair. I can't be anything negative about that. I was just really, really pleased, especially against a bogey team as well. That makes it even more sweeter.
This is now the second consecutive win away against Sassuolo in the Serie A. Last season, the crazy game 4-3, and now 3-0. Will, what do you? I mean, first of all, what did you think of it, of the game, and what are you most pleased with? And secondly, I mean, I'm looking at the game fixture list coming up in the Serie A, and I got to be honest, I'm not too scared, if I'm going to be honest. It's Bologna on Saturday, and then it's Cagliari away, and then it's Napoli, which is a difficult game, and then Spezia, and then Hellas away. These are games. This is a decent run of games. I mean, Spezia, Cagliari, Bologna. These are games that Inter should win, and probably could be able to pull up a draw against Hellas away, or even a win, and then same thing with Napoli.
Yeah, I mean, I had this conversation with you in the summer last season when I said that Inter would go on a run of games, and then I got criticised when we didn't do it. So I'm shutting up on the whole easy calendar discussion. Yeah, you're right. After that we've got Crotone and Sampdoria as well, so it's a nice run of fixtures into the new year. But as far as this game is concerned, two things that are really pleasing. Firstly, the system. We didn't really talk about it in the Real Madrid game, but along with all the sort of mental lapses and shortcomings that the team displayed against Real Madrid on Wednesday, there was also this, once again, the proof that this team has not worked out how to play with the number 10, with Barella and Vidal sort of alternating that number 10 role, and with two sort of defensive midfielders sitting deep, but sort of coming wide in possession. There was just a whole chasm of space for Odegaard in particular to sort of pick up the ball and just waltz towards the defence. And Inter couldn't get on the ball in that match, and they were so easy to play through. So those were two things that we didn't see against Sassuolo because Conte changed the system. Gagliardini said it himself in the post-match interviews. He said, we changed back to a 3-5-2. It's a system we've played a lot with last season. We know it well. We didn't need time to sort of assimilate any new ideas. We just got on with it, and we covered the pitch better. So there was definitely a tactical element to that win. It was encouraging to see a strong defensive performance because we've basically had none of them this season. We said a few weeks ago that one of the ways that you can get around conceding so much space in central areas in front of the defence is just to sit deeper, and that's what we did, and it worked. Admittedly, Sassuolo allow you to do that because they come onto you. If you play, I don't know, Crotone at home, you're probably not going to be able to sit on the edge of your own penalty box as effectively. But credit where it's due, Conte got this team selection right. Everything was fine, and the win was very convincing. But there was also a mental aspect, and that was probably the reason that this was such a comfortable win, is because I think for the first, it wasn't necessarily a sparkling performance from a qualitative perspective. That's certainly what Conte was saying in his post-match press conference. But the one thing that perhaps we saw in that match against Sassuolo that we haven't seen in any other match this season is that Inter were concentrated for 90 minutes. I often think that, concentration is one of the 2 or 3 best, most important qualities to win matches, because ultimately if you don't make mistakes, you won't lose matches. And for once, it was sort of in line with what we saw in the first half of last season, when we didn't always dominate game, but we were so clinical with our chances in the first half an hour, and then we just didn't let opponents in because we were switched on. We were on the ball, and we haven't seen that this season. So that is encouraging that mentally everyone was still switched on. Quite why that is, I'm not sure. Obviously, Sassuolo were not exactly, they were a little bit generous in the 2 goals that we did score in the first 15 minutes. But particularly the first goal was very impressive. Some lovely link-up play with Lautaro and Sanchez. So those are the 2 things that they were positive. The sort of compactness of the team and the concentration levels, which we haven't seen really all this season.
I just wanted to, just before you go on to the next point, I really want to talk about this tactical thing, because I think that basically what he did, and I think it was wise to do, because I don't put any moral judgment into it. If we're talking personal preference, anyone who knows me and has listened to the show knows that I absolutely love Catenaccio football. I love parking the bus. There is absolutely nothing more I love than parking the bus, scoring a goal, and frustrating the crap out of your opponents. But that's what he did. That's what he did against Sassuolo. He played to his strengths and to their weaknesses, and he managed to nullify Locatelli. And we have to say this: Matteo Darmian was phenomenal, and he's been consistently good and phenomenal since joining Inter, and I think that's something that we should say. He's the only signing that has delivered consistently so far, and I'm including Hakimi in that, and I think that says a lot. That says a lot. It might that speaks volumes as to where Inter are.
I was going to say, it says a lot of things. Not all of them are good.
No, not all of them are good. But he has been very good. And I think he really has. And I think in that game, the way he managed to control Jeremy Boga, which is not easy, was very interesting to see. And the work, how he and Milan Skriniar managed to control that side of the fence was very impressive. That's one thing. I mean, he parked the bus, Conte, and I'm okay with that. I have absolutely no problems with that. Sassuolo are like the best, are the most prolific team in the Serie A, or one of the most prolific teams in the Serie A. And when you're struggling
joint with Inter,
but
we are ahead now. Heading into this game, we were joint top goal scorers in the
league. So exactly. So I think he did the right thing, but he still did it. And I think it's important to say that, and I have no problem with that. For me, the only thing that mattered was the result in this game. The fact that they gave a good, solid defensive performance on top of that, that's just the icing on the cake that I did not expect we were going to be treated to on Saturday afternoon. But sorry, you wanted to say something?
It was a back to basics approach.
But I think I'm glad you said that, because this is what I want to see now. Against Gladbach, I want to see Brozovic in that hole, and I want to see Barella replace Vidal because he's suspended, and I want to see Gagliardini next to him because there's no one else to play in that next to him. I doubt that he'll play with Stefano Sensi. If he does, I'll be very surprised. But because I don't think I think that'll be such a physical game that I'm afraid that he's going to break again, Stefano Sensi. But it is what it is. But I think that the midfield we're going to see is Gagliardini in the same role as we saw against Sassuolo, with Barella not in the hole, but with Brozovic in the he swaps Brozovic and him around, and I think that's the correct move to do, because Brozovic, that's where he's good at. He's good at this regista role that Spalletti invented for him, and I hope to see that. But before the game and after the game, as always, the game was sandwiched between two very interesting things. The first one is Beppe Marotta talking about functionality and giving a lecture on functionality and how Christian Eriksen isn't functional to this Inter, and therefore if he'll leave in January. And the second one is Antonio Conte coming out and picking a fight with Beppe Marotta after the game and everyone in the directors. I don't understand what he's doing. I don't understand the point of this. I don't think anyone does. Why? Why can't this man let anyone be happy around him for more than 30 seconds before he shits all over it? It doesn't make any sense to me. He's whinging again about being protected. What else do you want this club to do for you? They have bent over backwards to please you. And when things go bad, and they have gone bad, you've been criticized for it. And it's been your fault, and now you're angry at the club. I don't understand what he's doing. I don't understand why he's provoking. He's like a child that that wants to see how far he can push the boundaries, and sooner or later, he's going to get smacked. He's going to get disciplined, and that's just going to hurt Inter, because you cannot throw people under the bus continuously like this man has done at this club, time and time and time again. And I want to hear what you guys think about what he did. Mo, how do you interpret what he did? What's the point of this?
Honestly, I know there was talk about the direction and protection, all of that. I thought, like you originally had thought, and I think you might have reread the stuff. I didn't go through it in details. I just read a couple of Twitter quotes from his from the post-match interview. I just thought it's a classic Conte. I'm glad he's back. Honestly, I think we joked about Conte unchained and Hakimi unchained when he's got D'Ambrosio playing next to him, and so I think everyone should be who they are, and he's a madman, like you say, and let the madman be mad. It is what it is. If this is what's going to fire him up and really stop that weird Xanaxed out Conte that we got for the first few games of the season, I'm in. I'm sure Marotta is in as well. I'm sure Zhang is in as well. Like let him vent out.
But I just want to say that, because that's the thing. It's very clear who he's talking about, because he praised Steven Zhang after. It's quite clear when he said that, he's very clear about, like, this isn't him. He's clear about who he's talking about. It's the guy who literally, the reason he's at Inter is because of Beppe Marotta, and that's the guy he's picking a fight with. I don't understand this. I don't understand what he's trying to prove. Is he trying to get Marotta out of the club? Because I'd rather see Antonio swim backwards out of Milan than to see Beppe Marotta leave Inter. If it's one of those things, the choice is easy. Buy Tony, like it's that simple. And I don't understand what he's trying to do by talking about protection and all that stuff. What do you want? What do you think, Will? What is the point of all this?
I don't know. I mean, I kind of. I agree with you that if the choice is between Conte and Marotta, then it's a no-brainer. But I do kind of think there's an element of truth in what Mo was saying about him being back. We obviously didn't enjoy him throwing people under the bus after the Dortmund match last year, or after the Verona match, or in his interview after the Atalanta game at the end of last season, or
after the Sevilla game in the final of the Europa League.
No, of course not. But ultimately, having seen the last 3 months, I'm kind of more comfortable. It's kind of a case of better the devil you know. I'm thinking, because what we've seen in the last 3 months has been almost worse in a very different way. The feeling that I've had over the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks, and I can't really think of any less vulgar way of saying it, is that Conte has looked like he's been neutered. He's been not him. It's been some really sort of crappy £10 sort of a stunt double that's been doing his post-match interviews and press conferences so far this season, talking about how he's really pleased with the performance and how this is a journey and I'd rather win 5-4 than 1-0. And, you know, I'm really proud of the club and we're doing... Because that to me kind of speaks to someone who doesn't really care what the ultimate outcome of this season is. You know, someone who's not properly in this project with his heart and soul, because, you know, he knows that, well, I don't really mind if we win the league, so I'll just say sort of nice things and then I'll move on with my life. And I don't want that. I want to see some kind of anger, because, you know, while it was clearly not helpful to have those comments last year, the results were coming for most of the season. You know, we didn't have a great season. We had a pretty good season last season with all those comments. Now, it's, you know, maybe that wasn't sustainable, but if he is starting to get a bit aggy again, I'm not necessarily going to stop him. You know, we know that. I mean, obviously, I can't. I'd love to have sort of influence over his press conferences. That would make things a lot easier. But, you know, I'm not going to moan about it. You know, this is what he is, and I'd rather have the flawed Conte I know than the sort of flatlining Conte that we've just met for the first time in the last 3 months. It doesn't make any sense to me. So, you know, into this season, you could argue that this club's, you know, if really his sticking point was that there was too much pressure on his shoulders and Inter needed to sort of spread this message that he wasn't obliged to win, then it's backfired, because it looks like the whole club has been anaesthetized and everyone sort of decided that, you know, it doesn't matter what they do because they don't have to win, so the pressure's off and they can just sort of trot around on the pitch every week. And I don't want that. You know, maybe a bit of spice is better. You know, I don't know. I'm just sort of
spice.
Yeah.
This isn't spice. This is arsenic. This season, toxic.
This season has been a broth, Nima, a stupid plain broth.
It's been a shit broth. Happened. It's been a shit broth. Absolutely, it's been a shit stew. I agree with you with that. But I don't think that the way to my solution to not having shit stew is not adding shit. But my solution isn't adding pepper and making the shit spicier. Like, I don't understand what the point of all of this is. Sure, I mean, I get this isn't for the good of Inter. Him going out there and creating drama is not for the good of Inter. It doesn't help Inter in any way. Last season it worked despite all of this. I mean, let's remember that when he did all of these things, Marotta had to walk everything back, and then it kind of broke after the Verona game when Marotta he wasn't even talking, was furious. And he looked angry. And it takes a lot to piss off someone like Beppe Marotta, who's so calm. And then you have the whole Europa League and their Tavolo da Pace, their peace meeting, which at Villa Bellini, and I mean, in Moratti's Villa. I mean, I don't know. It's to me, it's just the more I look at this, and I'm thinking, I feel it's inevitable that this is his last season in charge. And I think it's because
it's definitely his last season in charge.
Yeah, I mean, this is not sustainable.
If that.
Yeah, even you know, he's not going to get sacked. I'm putting after that financial report we got, there is no way that he's getting sacked. Inter can't afford to.
So if he can't get sacked, then I want Conte to do whatever he needs to do to work at his best. And if that's being stupid in press conferences, then fine. We won the match of the weekend, and we looked like last season's Inter for the first time. So, you know, I think, you know, in hindsight, and to be honest, it's not even so much in hindsight, because I remember feeling uneasy on the day that the news came out that he was staying, because I'd kind of come around to the idea of him, a change being the right thing. I think in hindsight, and also not in hindsight, the best thing to do was possibly to make the change last summer when it could be as non-disruptive as possible.
Yeah.
But seeing as that hasn't happened, and seeing as it's basically impossible to sack him, as you've said, then, you know, I'm not going to make a kick up a fuss about it. I want to see Conte at least, you know, okay, give us your flaws, but at least give us your good stuff as well.
Okay, yeah, well that's fair enough. That's fair enough, and I hope that's what he does, and I hope it continues. I think Bologna. Jake, I just want to quickly hear your thoughts on that as well before we move on to the Bologna game.
Well, it's a big, massive picture, really, isn't it? I think if you look, you know, the day you appoint Conte, you know, these things are going to happen. You know, he's got a shelf life. He's proved that at every club he's been at. And to be honest, I find his behaviour really, really bizarre. He's been backed more than probably every Inter manager in the history of the club. You know, more
without a
doubt.
Without a doubt.
The money that he's been, the money he's being paid for a start. But let's look at the transfer window. You know, the club's barely spent a bean for 10 years. You know, and the money, 200 plus million on all the players that he wanted. He literally started crying, you know, at the end of last season. You know, please give me Vidal, please. You know, it's just, you know, we give him Vidal. And there's always one excuse. And it's Conte's way. You know, you look back right at the start of his career, he was at Atalanta, you know. There's always an excuse. It's always somebody else's fault. But you know this before you appoint him as manager. So the point is, if you're going to appoint him as manager, you sit and you put up with it. But from an Inter fan's perspective, it's really, really frustrating. Because yes, you appoint Conte, good track record in Serie A. You know, he's did a good job at Chelsea, largely decent job with the national team. You know, you can't deny that he's a good manager. You know, he's had success in his managerial career, but it's the baggage that comes with it. It's almost a little bit like Mourinho to a lesser extent in terms of, you know, you appoint him, yeah, and you know he's great and this is good, but it's all the baggage that comes with it. And at the minute, Conte's not even bringing the wins that Mourinho does. You've also got to look at the fact that when he was last in Serie A, when he was at Juventus, who was the challengers? Who was the real challenger to his team? You know, look at Serie A this season. Look at Milan. I mean, nobody would have put them there at the start of match day one. Nobody. You know, you've got Napoli who looked quite good at parts. It's all a big, massive, revolving sort of circle, and it all comes back to appointing him. And I can't blame the club whilst he's been there, because they've done everything they can for him. They've given him all the players they wanted, all the money, all the time. And I think it's cheeky that he has the goal to fire anything back at the club. The money he spent, it's obvious that Inter got rid of Spalletti to attack the Scudetto, and that was the point in paying Conte all this money. And if he's not delivering that, a part of that is got to be down to him, because he's getting all the players that he wants, all the backing that he wants. I don't know what this whole respect backing thing even is. What does he want? Does he want Beppe Marotta to come out in front of the press and hiss him in front of the cameras or something? I don't know. I don't know. But it's...
Well, what more can he do to support Conte than come out in the pre-match press conference and basically push Eriksen out the door with a cheery wave
and take the heat for that? That's what he does. Marotta comes out and says he's not functional. That's Marotta saying, I made a mistake because I'm responsible for bringing Eriksen in.
But why
he
buy
takes
him if
the
he's
heat
not functional? Why buy him? I mean, yeah, it's a
that's what he's saying,
what's the
Marotta.
point?
Yeah, exactly. What's the point? And Marotta is taking on responsibility for that by saying that before the game. But Antonio Conte doesn't get that, and he it's as if he doesn't want anyone to say anything bad to him ever, because it's unfair. Reminds me of a certain politician in the United States. Anyway, let's move on to the Bologna game, which is a game that we play on Saturday, if I'm not mistaken, at Saturday evening at 8:45 local time at home against Bologna, and it's a Bologna that that kept a clean sheet for the first time, I think, in this season against Crotone. They struggled, and it's a side that Inter should comfortably beat, which is why this is has got a bit of a trapdoor game to it, because the following week is obviously the closing game of the Champions League. So. But I do think that Inter will win this game. I do think that Inter will go on a bit of a run against in the Serie A, and I think Bologna is one of those teams that I know Inter have struggled with in recent years at home, but I do think Inter will win this. I think Inter will win 2-0. Mo?
Yeah, look, I really like the formula that we did last week, so there's no chance we're going to win this game. Absolutely no chance. It's not going to happen, you know. It's not going to happen. It's a trap game.
The inverted jinx doesn't work like that. You know that.
No, I think it would be a straightforward win. I think you know, I always like to say my prediction is contingent upon the result midweek. But I think in this case, a win or anything but a draw against Gladbach is a good thing for us going back into the league. So I think it's going to be a win, just like you said. I think it's a win. I think Lukaku is back on the score sheet. Him and Lautaro. I think Lula is giving us a 2 or 3-0 victory.
Sounds good by me. What about you, Will?
Oh, I'm not as confident. You mentioned this record that we have, and it's not just Bologna. These Emilian sides that come
Parma,
to Sun. I looked when we drew against Parma. I had a look at our record, and we haven't won any of our last 8 home matches against Parma, Bologna, and Sassuolo. So this dates back sort of 2 or 3 years. It's something about that region that really causes problems. So, admittedly, I haven't actually seen Bologna yet this season. So I'm going off what I saw last season. But I know that they are they're not a fearful team. They will attack into, which could be a good thing. But we will need to be focused on this match and not the Champions League, if indeed the Champions League is still alive when we get to that match. They're the kind of team that make me nervous, and I am thinking maybe a 1-1 draw. But like I said, I don't really know what to expect after these last 2 matches, which I thought were going to be the other way around. I'm kind of not sure about anything anymore. So, yeah, I'll sit in the middle and say draw.
Jake?
I can agree with both elements of what you both just said there. I was listening to Mo and I was like, yeah, definitely. Yeah, 2-0, easy, take the points, move on. And then Will tells me that stat. And I'm like, well, yeah, good point. Then you've got Orsolini, you've got Barrow, and Federico Santander still there.
And a player, and a midfielder. I got to say, and a midfielder that I know Inter are looking at, that they've confirmed that they are looking at. Mattias Svanberg, Swedish central defensive midfielder, who's one of the youngest players in the Serie A, who plays a lot and is very highly rated. Inter are looking at him, and he's a player that they could potentially try to sign in the summer. So and he'll definitely start that game. So
let's not forget El Trenza.
Yeah, Palacio as well. Palacio as well, yeah.
He can score.
Yeah, for sure. So, sorry, Jake, what do you think is going to happen?
I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to go for a 3-1 victory.
Nice.
I think, given Bologna's attacking intent, I think they're not going to come and park the bus. So I think they will get a goal. But these games really do rest on that first goal. And, it does depend on the hangover of midweek. Whatever happens midweek, we've got a history up until this last weekend of, going behind early, and that could cause a problem. Bologna were the only team to beat Inter, obviously, with Juve and Lazio in the league last season. So, no, before I talk myself out of it, 3-1, easy win. Scudetto charge on. We're going to win the league. Nice one.
No,
I hope Stefano Sensi starts this match. It's not going to happen on Tuesday, is it? So
no.
This might be an opportunity to get him back in the fold if he's ready for it.
Absolutely. And one thing Inter cannot do against Bologna is this: allowing Mattias Svanberg to shoot centrally is suicide. He hits a ball, he twats a ball like a rocket. Do not let him shoot centrally. That's all I'm going to say, because then he will score. I've seen him score ridiculous goals when he's given time centrally. So please don't do that, Inter. Please. Right. Let's move on to the part of the show where we pay tribute, rip the piss out of, and criticize someone or something in the world of football heavily, starting with the positivity, which will be presented by Mr. Positivity, Mr. Mohamed Nasser.
He works a lot, he's intelligent, and he surprises people sometimes with his ideas. Not easy to find one person all these qualities.
Well, I mean, look, I don't know. It's been overplayed all week, so I'll do like the token appreciation to my generation's capture of our footballing imagination. The reason why we all fell in love with the game. Maradona, may he rest in peace. Really, no words can describe what he means to anybody, between 35 and 50, I would imagine, years old today. There's like Messi, Ronaldo, El Fenomeno, the original Ronaldo. Maybe he was the closest to really capturing that sort of magic, and Ronaldinho. But Maradona was something else. So here's my quick tribute to him. But from an Inter perspective, man, it was nice seeing Skriniar on top form. The man was a beast, was an absolute beast. Not a missed beat nothing. He fought for every ball. He was immense, really immense yesterday against Sassuolo. So it like my takeaway is, we were talking about me personally as well when we were talking about I can't remember who the comparison was over summer, selling him or Brozovic, or I can't remember, but like he's put all these, with that single match performance, I think he's put all concerns about him fitting into any system to rest and to bed. And I think it's a testament to the fact that this guy really works on developing himself and changing his gameplay and learning. And he really wants to be at Inter. And it was absolutely lovely seeing him being so critical and so important and decisive in a game.
Agreed, 100%. It was a joy to watch him. Right, let's move on to something much more negative. This week's Moggi, which I'm representing myself. This week, it's, unless you've lived under a rock, you would have known that everyone who's been semi-conscious at least would know that Diego Maradona sadly passed away. But when people die, what is usually traditional is to, even if you've had some trouble with them and had some disagreements with them, you usually that's the decorum amongst most humans, that you kind of let bygones be bygones and wish them well and say you're sorry that they're dead. That is, unless your name is Peter Shilton. Then you go out on a rant and talk about what a cheater Maradona was and just shit on the guy's life when he's just passed away, which is rather distasteful. So to me, Peter Shilton, this week's Moggi.
Do you want to lump Antonio Cabrini in with Peter Shilton as well?
Yeah, what he said about if he'd gone to Juventus, his life would have been different. But at least Cabrini apologized, didn't he? Peter Shilton did not apologize. Yeah, he did, because he understood that what he said was bang out of order. But Peter Shilton did not apologize, and in fact, he just doubled down. Let's move on to something much more comical. This week's Frog, which is presented by Mr. William Beckman.
Clamoroso autogol di Ranocchia.
Yes, I'm very much lowering the bar this week's Frog, lowering the tone of our conversation. Up until now, it's been tremendously highbrow, and now I'm going to bring in some very cheap humour. So the Moggi of the Frog of the week. This week's Tapiro d'Oro, as we said earlier, is as a village in Austria, in a little municipality called Tarsdorf, which is sort of in the northwest of Austria. They have announced that from the 1st of January 2021, they're going to change their name. The original name has caused them a lot of trouble. This is the reason. It's been sort of dated back to the 11th century. It's gone through a couple of slight changes, but it's always been pretty much this word. And the locals have decided that enough is enough. There's been too much of a media frenzy. The villagers have had enough of visitors and their bad jokes, and they're going to change things. So that the village is spelt Fucking. That is the name of this actual real village. And the picture in the article that I found here on The Guardian is very illustrative of very much why this name has been changed, because apparently a lot of tourists have been standing next to the signs with the name of the village, have been taking pictures of themselves next to it, with thumbs up, and in the same way that you might sort of like the Leaning Tower of Pisa is something you have to get a photo next to because it's a landmark. You go to this sign and you get your picture taken next to it. Very similar to what the tourists do in Schitt's Creek. If anyone's seen that program on Netflix, that village name comes in for a lot of mockery, and unfortunately, this poor village has done the same. So, from the 1st of January, they're going to be called Fugging, Fugging. If you want to visit this village, obviously you can't really do that at the moment for obvious reasons, but it's about 350 kilometers west of Vienna. And for the record, there is just across the border in Germany, in Bavaria, there is a village called Petting. So if you want funny names, just go to this little area.
And close by fucking is the two places that are not changing their name is Oberfucking and Unterfucking. They're still there.
I wasn't going to say it, but you've just plowed straight through and said
no, that's the name of the villages that are close by fucking.
There's a
fucking, there's a Oberfucking, and there's a Unterfucking.
Could they be our
Just
three?
saying.
Can we change the names of our awards to the fucking of the week, the Orber fucking of the week, and no, okay. There is actually a place near me called Pratt's Bottom. That's a real place as well. I don't think that's going to be changed. So there's plenty of options if you want your stupid names.
Good name. No, but it's pronounced Fugging. That's why they changed it. I did some digging into this myself because when I saw this, I loved this, and then that's when I saw that there's a place called Bad Kissing and Kissing in Bayern, and then there's called Petting, of course, in Bayern as Bavaria as well, and then I saw that there is a Oberfucking and Unterfucking in the sandwiching the village of fucking.
According to the subheading on this article, the mayor says that residents known as fucking girls have had enough of visitors and their bad jokes. Can you imagine going around and describing yourself as one of them?
I'm a fucking her. Brilliant. This is all true, by the way. He's not making this up.
It's still bona fide. We don't do fake news on this.
No, we don't do fake news. This is 100% true, and it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
2020 is brilliant in so many ways. Right, that's all we had time for this week. I'd like to thank you, Mo.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure.
And you, Mr. Oberfucking, Mr. William Beckman.
Is that my new nickname?
General Fucking.
Okay. Oh,
no,
okay.
No.
Interesting. I'll go back to requesting 6 points this week. I think it's possible again, even though I believe my cumulative predictions would have given us 1 point this week. But I'd like 6.
And as always, thank you very much for coming on, Mr. Jake Smalley. Don't be a stranger.
No, thanks so much for having me. I've really, really enjoyed it, and I've got probably the weirdest sort of village in my mind now. All these weird mental images going through my head of what these weird people must look like in this weird place. Yeah. No, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on. And as always, I'm your host, Nimatawali Rutsari, wishing you a good week. 6 points. Stay safe, stay healthy, follow the guidelines, and sempre e solo forza Inter.